Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the 41st Ryder Cup. Pleased to be joined again by European captain Darren Clarke. Darren, good to see you.
Thank you.
Your pairings this morning, your matches that you set up today are a little bit different than what we saw yesterday. Is there anything we can decipher from that, or is that the mystery of it all? Is that your intention?
Well, you know, it's such a pressure-filled week for all the guys. Last night we had a great night in our team room. We had a wonderful man in, Paul O'Connell, dressing the team, and then we had Dynamo the Magician in afterwards, and everything was very light-hearted and good mood. So this morning I decided that I'd put the veterans out against the rookies and let the rookies step up and take the veterans on. And that was the whole idea this morning. The guys are relaxed, they're enjoying themselves, and they wanted to go out there and have a little bit of fun. You know, they got a lot of pressure coming their way, and this morning was going out, letting them play 9 holes and try and take the cash off the older guys.
That works. Speaking of the rookies and the 6 that you have, I got to imagine it's a source of pride for everybody from Ryder Cup Europe that this next wave of European talent has arrived kind of at the same time in unison. Is that accurate? I mean,
yeah, I think
good
so.
About that?
You know, I think so. I think as you can see from both sides in the past, you've had times whenever you see somewhat of a changing of the guard. And I think, as you rightly pointed out there, we've got 6 rookies on our team this week. They are probably going to be the future of the Ryder Cup going forward. And, you know, I feel very fortunate that they're here in this team. You know, I have full belief in all of those rookies. They're very, very talented players, and I'm sure they will do their utmost to represent Europe in the best that they can this week.
Perfect. Let's hit the ground running here. Let's begin with number 1 on our far right, please.
Darren, what's your opinion on the article that's been written by, you knew it was coming, Danny's brother? Do you think that's going to be unhelpful this week?
Listen, I just was made aware of the article about an hour ago. I hadn't seen it. As soon as I did, I went out to find Danny. He was playing in the last group out there this morning. I spoke to Danny about it. I showed it to Danny, and he's bitterly disappointed in his brother's article. It is not what Danny thinks. It is not what I think. It is not what Team Europe stands for. So Danny was unaware of it, and he fully intends to speak to his brother whenever he comes in and express his displeasure to his brother about it, because that is not what Team Europe stands for. So, you know, I was obviously very disappointed as well, because that's an outside person expressing their opinion, which is not representative of what our thoughts are.
Okay, number 4, please.
Darren Hines, much has been made today about the role of a Ryder Cup captain. How do you define the role of a Ryder Cup captain?
All-encompassing, I think. I think from when I look back from my first Ryder Cup in 1997 and had the privilege of playing under Seve and seeing how much he ran about everywhere, I can understand that somewhat more nowadays, because you try to do everything you possibly can as a captain. But then again, we have more vice captains these days than we did in the past. And, you know, if I wasn't to delegate some of the responsibility to those guys, I would have no time at all. So you try to balance up what is required from your role predominantly towards the players, and then balance up your other roles, such as doing this, etc., and decisions that have to be made. So it's quite it's a fulfilling role. It's one that I'm really enjoying, but there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. But whenever we actually get here, you know, after a year and a half of planning, to see that come to fruition, it's wonderful. So, you know, I know it's still early in the week and we've got to get the main event off playing as soon as the golf starts, but, you know, I'm really excited and looking forward to it.
Let's go to Mark, number 2.
Hey, Darren, just as a follow on Danny's brother's thing,
yes.
Obviously he was highly critical of the U.S. fans.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any concern of yours that incites, you know, what it's obviously already going to be a pretty emotional crowd here, and maybe that Danny's one down when he steps to the first tee?
Yeah, you know, it's as I said there, the article is very, very disappointing, and that is not reflective of Team Europe. That is not the way that we view things. I mean, the fans could not have been nicer and better to us this week, and that is, you know, hopefully that continues. And as I say, the article was beyond our control, and, you know, Danny is bitterly disappointed himself, and, you know, I can't it's up to Danny to speak to his brother whenever he comes in and express that. So, I will let him deal it between siblings. It's one of those real disappointing things. But as I say, it's Danny's brothers, not Danny's opinion, not Team Europe's opinion. So Danny will resolve that.
Let's go to number 1 in the front here, please.
Darren, sort of golfing question. You've spent months working out what your probable pairings would be.
Yes.
Just wonder what you've seen this week that might have changed your mind?
Yes, I have my pairings. I know I'm almost 100% about what's going to happen on Friday morning and indeed Friday afternoon. And I'd probably guessed this morning may have thrown a little curveball in there, not knowing what was going on. But I wanted the guys to go out there and have a little bit of fun. But certainly all the vice captains are out there watching what's going on. Unfortunately, Paul Lawrie woke up feeling very poorly this morning, so he had to go back and rest. But the rest of the guys are out there watching what's going on. So has there been anything to change my mind? Everybody's playing pretty well. So, there's some tough decisions to be made, but, I have my plans and I'm going to follow through them.
Number 3, please.
Darren, members of the American Task Force in analyzing what's gone wrong for the Americans have said that they also want to kind of model what the Europeans have done. What do you think when you hear that?
Well, I think that can only be a compliment. I think that's a compliment in the fact that obviously we have been successful. Otherwise, they wouldn't want to try and copy what we've been doing to a certain degree. But I think it's also a compliment to themselves. I think it's a compliment to Ryder Cup America because they crave and they want success. It's like any team. If your results aren't the way you want to do, you try and figure out a way to improve those results. And I think the highest compliment that anybody can pay is to try and maybe copy or take a look at a few of the components that make up our success. So, the task force I look at as a huge compliment to the European Tour.
Let's go over here, number 4, please.
Hi, Darren. The Spanish guys has always been very passionate with the game of golf and the Ryder Cup. We have 2 of them, one veteran as Sergio and one rookie as Rafa. How are being their first days?
Yeah, they're both, obviously Sergio's a Ryder Cup veteran. He's really enjoying himself, and Rafa has just slipped into the whole thing. You'd think he had played quite a few Ryder Cups before, so both the guys are enjoying themselves. It's not as if you have Rafa and Sergio sticking together like glue in the team room. Everybody's mixing in with everybody. But the 2 guys certainly are very, very comfortable with the positions that they're in at the moment.
Number 1 on our right, please.
Darren, can I just double check, were there any plans for Danny's brother to come out to the Ryder Cup, and in light of what's been written, would those plans perhaps change now?
That I can't answer. I'm not aware of who's bringing whom to the Ryder Cup. My responsibilities are to the team and the 12 guys and their partners and the caddies that are in the close-knit team room. So I have no idea if his brother was invited or not.
Number 3, please.
Darren, earlier Henrik said that he could probably go 5 sessions if he needed to on that knee. Do you expect that to be the case, or do you think you could count on him through the whole?
He has, Henrik has assured me that if I would ask him to play 5 times, he is fit enough to play 5 times. Obviously his knee is giving him a little bit of bother, not as much as what has been reported. So if Henrik has told me if I need him 5 times, he is more than keen and able to play 5 times.
Straight back, number 4, please.
Darren, you and Lee played Phil and Tiger in 2004 in that four-ball match. What do you remember about that match? And Phil made some comments this morning about maybe he was put in a position to fail. Do you agree with that, or what are your memories from that match?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think I've ever teed up in a Ryder Cup where I've been sent out in position to fail. That is not something that I have felt when I've gone out to play. But I remember whenever Tiger and Phil were against Lee and myself, obviously we were playing against number 1 and 2 in the world. And Lee and I had a big task. We knew that. Phil and Tiger got off to a very good start. But Lee and myself have had a pretty solid Ryder Cup record in the past. We knew each other's games inside out, so we were off the mindset to keep going, one hole at a time, and we managed to get ourselves back into the game and eventually hang on and win the game. So, you know, in terms of what I look back, it was obviously another really good achievement for Lee and myself to beat world number 1 and 2. But, you know, in terms of what Phil has said about the pairing, I can't comment on that because I wasn't part of their pairing. I was only part of Lee and myself.
Darren, let's go number 1, please.
Darren, Dynamo obviously brought some trickery and fun into the team room.
Yes.
I assume the balance was that Paul O'Connell brought a bit more seriousness. What impact did he make on the players, and did he hit the notes that you were expecting him to?
Paul most definitely was exceptional in the team room last night. You know, any man that leads the British Lions who are playing overseas all the time, they play away from home. As for the people from Europe that know rugby, they're a travelling side. So to get his input and his vision on what it took to make a successful travelling side was very impressive. The caddies, the players, everybody in that room, you could have heard a pin drop whenever Paul was addressing them. And it was quite interesting because Paul is a very large man, 6'7", 6'7.5", and he's big in stature. But whenever Paul addressed the team, he sat down. He didn't stand up. He didn't feel the need to stand up and intimidate anybody. He brought himself down on the same level as everybody else. And the team and the caddies were unbelievably impressed with the words that he gave us last night. So I was very, very thankful for him to come along and do that. The guys were thoroughly inspired. And yet after that, going into the team room and having Dynamo in there, Paul was in there as well with Dynamo, and to see the guys just, you know, switch off a little bit and chill and enjoy themselves was also very beneficial. So all in all, it was a very productive evening.
Number 2, please.
Darren, Europe went 7-1 in foursomes at Glen Eagles, which was a big key. In your experience, what makes a really good foursomes pair? And do you feel Europe has any kind of edge in the format in that it's a little more familiar with it?
Possibly a little bit more familiar with it, but I think it's the secret to foursomes, in my opinion, is having complete and utter belief in your partner. You know, I've had a few partners, but my main one in Ryder Cup was Lee. And Lee and I travelled the world together. We played the practice rounds together, so we knew each other's strengths and each other's weaknesses. But as a pair, we came together and we had the utmost belief and trust in each other. And I think, you know, that European bond is a very strong one, and it seems to work whenever the guys all pull together and they have that bond, and that makes, in my opinion, that makes a strong foursome pairing.
On our right, number 3.
Darren, this is a question about Henrik Stenson again. Given the fact that you guys have 6 rookies on your team and the season that he has played, how important is he for this team?
He's very important in this team, but no more important than every other member of the team. You know, Henrik is obviously he's the Open champion. He has a lot of experience. He has a lot of global success. You know, the young guys Henrik would be one of the players that the young guys may look up to. He is one of the leaders in the team room, but again, everybody in the team room is equal. Now Henrik has said he will play, as I touched on earlier, he will play 5 times, 4 times, 3 times, whatever I ask him to play. And you couldn't ask more for a team member than Henrik Stenson. He's been fantastic in there.
Number 1 on our far right.
Darren, when you said you felt like you were never sent out in a position to fail, were you speaking about your faith and the wisdom of your captains, or the attitude you tried to take even if you didn't agree with the captain?
I never disagreed with the captain. All a captain tries to do is make the best decisions for the team, and you're there to represent the team and the captain. So, you know, in terms of, I was just asked a question about Phil, that was his opinion. I never had that same sort of feeling. So that was something, every time I went out to try and win my point for Europe. Should it be on my own or should it be with a partner? That was the only intention I ever had. I didn't win all my points, but I went out to try and win as many as I could.
On our left, number 4, please.
Darren, is there something that Paul O'Connell said last night that resonated with the away wins that you've been involved with as a player and a vice captain? Some common thread perhaps that goes through those. And secondly, how important is it for you that all your players play on the first day, all 12?
Yeah, well, Paul said quite a few things last night, and I know we're talking about two different sports in rugby and golf, whereas rugby is obviously a team game all the time, and golf, we get together for this once every 2 years. But he made a lot of very pertinent points about you're playing for the jersey and different ways about that. So there was a lot of common ground found there. And when you have the likes of say, Henrik and Sergio and Rafa, and those guys, Thomas Peter, those guys that are not quite as familiar with the game of rugby as what I would be or some of the other guys, to have those guys listening to every word that he said, obviously everything he did say resonated with them. What was the other one, Brad? What was the second part of the question?
Just on playing everybody on the first day.
Playing everybody on the first day. I've spoken to a lot of previous captains in this, and they've all came in with plans, but each and every one of them told me that those plans need to be fluid. So if that's the case, I have a idea in my head of what it will be, Friday morning, Friday afternoon, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, but that has to be fluid in terms of how the match is going. So I will, along with the help and guidance of my vice captains, try and put out the strongest 8 players in those Thursday or Friday morning, Friday afternoon, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, that I see fit for the position that the team is in.
Darren Clarke, European Ryder Cup captain, thank you for the insight. Enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you very much.